said to her, "My love, what made you come back from your mother's? And why didn't you call me so I could go and pick you up?" She looked at me and kept silent. Then she got into bed and slept like a child. I said to myself, what's wrong with her? And I said, let her rest and we will talk in the morning. But I decided to call my mother-in-law to understand from her. I spoke with my mother-in-law. "Yes, Mom, how are you?" She said to me, "All is well, my son." And you said to her, "I am fine. What's wrong with Amina, Mom? Did someone upset her?"
She said, "My son, Omnia is sleeping here in her room."
Honestly, I wanted to use a profane word. What? Omnia, who's inside?
Then who is in my apartment?
She said, "What apartment, my son?" I threw the phone and ran to the room.
Contrary to what you expect, I really found my wife sleeping inside the room.
I didn't say I entered and found no one. I found her sleeping in the room.
And I was too terrified to approach her. But indeed, I found her asleep. I went back for the phone, and as soon as I put it to my ear, I heard a strange buzz. Like something buzzing or... Was my mother-in-law screaming? She was reciting, "I seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan." Then a long shriek. I took my car and ran down to my mother-in-law's house. The doorman and I went up a lot, but unfortunately no one opened. We broke the door and entered, found my mother-in-law on the floor, and her body was all blue as if she had been violently attacked. I tried to revive her. She didn't wake. We called the ambulance, and they took her, and then she fell into a coma. What's strange is she went to the hospital with bruises all over her body, but by the next day she was fine, only the coma was very real. And my wife developed depression.
I suspected the reason was that her mother was sick.
Anyway, my mother-in-law then was unconscious. They tried to understand from her what's up. She didn't say anything to anyone and stayed silent. I took the chance that my wife returned home, hoping she'd change her clothes, and her brother brought her home. I decided that I would talk to my mother-in-law, and decided that I had to understand what was wrong. And when I asked her, she collapsed, and it took me a long time to calm her. But with difficulty, she calmed down and spoke up, and told me that when she entered her daughter's room after I had not called, she found the girl not in her bed. She found her standing by the closed window, giving me her back. She entered. She tried to understand what was wrong by calling her, but she didn't answer at all. I went in, tried to touch her shoulder to see what's wrong, calling Omnia. "This is Omnia." She laughed with a strange laugh. But it was not her voice, a different voice. And she turned to me. I found that her face was not my daughter's face, but rather a totally different person. And my mother-in-law started crying and crying. She said to me, "She tried to kill me, I swear. I do not know if this is my daughter or someone else. Sometimes I see my daughter, sometimes someone else." I told her all this happened in the 2 minutes while I was talking to you on the phone. She said to me, "My son," as if they were years. Suddenly she was hitting me so angry I felt like I was going to die. I asked her, "Do you know who has this face?" She said, "What?" No! Of course I don't know her! How could I?" Confused, that made me doubt. I'm sure there is something. No one told me, my wife too. Her state changed completely. I wake up to find her talking to someone who isn't there and crying. Once I entered and found her lying on the bed, her body was stiff and her complexion completely pale. Her eyes do not have the black pupils that we have. And she's strangling herself. She says words that aren't understandable. She is speaking strange words. I tried to make her more conscious, tried to make her take her hands off her neck. I couldn't figure it out. I found no solution but to hurt her. She woke up, screamed, and kept crying. I tried to calm it, and really calmed it down with difficulty. I tried to calm her nerves, but unfortunately, I won't be able to do anything, and her condition is deteriorating day by day. Try to make her calm down for her pregnancy. But don't calm down. You were not talking and always screamed a lot and cried. And her condition was the worst it could be, continuous crying, and woke up from sleep screaming. Every time I try to get close to her, she gets angry. And one day I got up at 12 ikaw to her scream that shook the whole house. I ran out and found her, my wife. She locked herself in the bathroom. I kept banging on the door. She wouldn't open it. I went in and found her thrown on the ground. The water is flooding and she fainted. I tried to turn her over, and when she regained consciousness, she started crying and told me that unnatural things are happening to her. "I'm going to die," she said. I told her to just explain to me what happened. She told me the pregnancy was making me a bit tired, so I had to get up and go to the bathroom, and while I was inside I looked and saw someone standing behind me in the bathroom mirror. I went around but didn't find anyone, and then the bathroom lights went out, but in the mirror the image was still lit, and this person was standing looking at me. Her eye is white, and it's split in half like that, like the eye of a snake, and I froze from fear. And suddenly she grabbed my head that's in the mirror and kept drowning it in the sink, and I found my head plunging into the water, coming out and plunging and getting lifted. I can't control my body at all. I'm trying to breathe. I don't know how to try to call you. I didn't know. And with difficulty my voice came out. I screamed. I screamed at her and said to her, "That's enough already. It's wrong of you. I am tired. Enough with the nonsense. Are you dreaming dreams and believing them?" She started screaming and crying, and with difficulty she slept and calmed down. I've become scared. I leave our house and leave my crazy wife alone. We make scandals. I called my mother-in-law and told her either you come to stay with your daughter or she comes to you. She said no. I will come. She shouldn't. And indeed my mother-in-law came. She looked lost, as if she had aged 30 years. When I tried to understand from her, she told me, "I'm tired. My son, I feel like there's someone living with me in the house. A strange soul." Sometimes I hear someone walking in the apartment and I get up to look around but don't find anyone. Often I fall back asleep. I feel someone beside me. And a few days ago I saw the same girl again, Amar, walking in the house corridor. I have the house to myself. I followed her but she disappeared. I asked forgiveness from God. I feel like I am living in a nightmare. My mother-in-law is crazy, and her daughter is trotting, and her son is confused in his mind. I no longer understand anything. What am I doing falling amidst this trashy family? I don't understand anything. I left the house and went out. I really needed to get some air, so I turned off my phone because I truly needed to get away from the nightmare I'm in. I went down to the club, met my colleague Ayman. He asked me about Mohammed and I told him to invite him to join us. "Who is with you?" "Major Jamal Abdel Dayem, your brother, is with us here in Basatin Department, and we hope you honor us." What? How is this? I and Ayman quickly went to the department. I found Mohammed in a terrible condition. By the way, Mimstar Ayman, friend of ours, is a lawyer. As soon as Mohammed saw me, he said to me, "Where were you?" "Your phone." "It was off. I tried to call you a lot."
He was crying like a child. He told me he saw it with his own eyes. "My wife is cheating on me, Amar." The doorman spoke to me and said that someone came out of the building covering his face and looking around fearfully. I opened my mobile phone. I went back to the recordings as you taught me. I found someone was in my house and she was in his arms. I saw her cheating on me. Amar, I saw her in the arms of another. Amar. Ayman said to him, "Where is the video? Will it improve your position in the case?" I told Ayman, "Is it recorded on something like a hard disk? Connected to the camera and servers in his house?" Ayman entered, explained the situation to the prosecutor, and we got the prosecution's permission to bring the hard and examine its contents. The A doorman was called to testify. I left Mohammed in jail and went back home. I found my mother-in-law collapsed and screaming. I am the reason. I am the one who did this to him. I wish I hadn't forced him to marry her. All this is her right. I tried to understand whose right it was. I didn't know the stranger. My wife's position. Who didn't feel anything? What's going around us? Have I completely isolated myself from the whole world? The important thing is that the contents of the camera were examined. There was nothing at all of what he said. On the contrary, the apartment was empty, and the recording shows that his wife wasn't even there. He came home, followed her inside, and started shouting, yelling, and hitting her, and in the end, he strangled her, and she died. They brought the doorman to testify. He admitted that he did talk to Mohammed, but only to tell him about the elevator maintenance fees because he knocked on their door and nobody opened it, and he completely denied everything Mohammed said. Mohammed's situation in the case became very weak, especially after the camera incident. That's what turned from innocence to evidence of guilt. Ayman tried to ask Mohammed about any other evidence that could exonerate him, but there wasn't any. The case is really stacked against Mohammed, and it's going to lead him to the gallows. After a week of going around police stations and the prosecution, I received a phone call from them asking for my presence, me and my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law, my wife, and I went, and they told us that Mohammed had committed suicide. It was a shock to all of us. Mohammed commits suicide. He took pills and overdosed, and died. Of course, the world turned to find out how he could get those pills, and afterward, we went to collect the body. We did the burial procedures and buried Mohammed. My mother-in-law's condition became very bad, and my wife's condition was much worse. And I'm in a nightmare that I can't get out of. I don't know what to do, or the reason for all these disasters. I don't know. My wife stopped eating completely. Her health deteriorated, and she was always screaming, collapsing, and running to the balcony. She would shout and make loud sounds, and make strange noises. Scandals in front of the neighbors. I tried in every way to calm her down. It wasn't intentional, except that I had to admit her to a psychiatric clinic, and that's what I actually did. It was the only solution. I and my mother-in-law preferred to stay together at home. She's not like my mother either, and all she used to do was pray and ask God to save her daughter and to seek forgiveness. She always blamed herself, saying that she was the reason, and she would speak strange words. Is this now a sin? I don't understand anything, but I went through very hard days. After a while, my mother-in-law, her condition collapsed, and she had a stroke from the grief. She could no longer move her arms or legs. Only her right hand moved slightly, and even talking was hard to understand. As for my wife, her condition was awful. The doctor totally banned any visits. After a while, the poor woman died, along with the baby in her womb. May God have mercy on them. And when we went to collect her body for burial, my mother-in-law asked to see her daughter, and she really entered to see her. She entered to see her daughter being washed, but as soon as she entered, she started screaming. I tried to calm her down. She kept crying and screaming, holding in her hands my sister's necklace that has the Quran in it, and no one understands anything of what she's saying. I had only one solution, to call a doctor for her to administer a calming injection, which is what happened. We finished the burial and I returned with my mother-in-law in a terrible state of hysteria. The only solution was for her to be admitted to the hospital as well. And indeed, I admitted her, and a month after my wife's death, I went to visit her. When I entered, she was in a terrible state. May God help her. She lost her sons and her health, and it became like the nearly dead. All that it does is emit unintelligible noises as if it wants to say something. I asked the nurse if she would leave us alone, and I sat with her. As soon as the nurse left, I laughed. She looked at me, and I pointed to the necklace and said to her, "Please allow me. Permit me to tell you a little story. I've known you for a very long time, for years, but I'm frankly not sure how many. My real name is Bakar Aboya. He was a worker in a governmental ministry, and I only had 2 sisters, and my father's brother was a simple man, but he was educated and respected for having performed Hajj several times and completed several Umrahs, and my mother was half Egyptian and half Saudi. All her family is from Saudi Arabia, and she was very beautiful. My sisters Aisha and Jamila, and my brother Amma." "Ah, I'm just Ammar." My brother's name and Aisha was very strong. Her ranking was always after me, followed by Ammar, and the youngest was beautiful. Jamila was 10 years younger than me. I used to see her as my daughter. Her eyes are the color of the clear sky in the middle of the day, and black and soft hair, and a strong arm, and 2 small dimples on the softest face, although our natures were not the same. But we loved each other very much and cared deeply for Jamila. When I was 25 years old, I got a job opportunity in Saudi Arabia with my mother's family, and I traveled and I kept up with their news all the time. We always had communication and calls. Back then, there were no Facebook, internet, or mobile phones. Jamila was growing up, and she used to send me her pictures and news regularly. Tried to send money to my father to help him with the living expenses, but he completely refused. I used to come every 2 years or so, and when Jamila turned 20, she became the most beautiful girl in the family. Aisha married my cousin, and Amma, my brother, entered petroleum engineering, and Jamila, she entered fine arts. At that time, my position had become very big, and I was transferred to the company's branch in Iraq. We were almost in the year 1996. My vacation was reduced a lot. Ammar in college met a very respectable young man. His name was Mohammed, and they became best friends. Mohammed started visiting our home and got to know my father, mother, and Jamila. Over time, he fell in love with Jamila deeply, and the whole family welcomed the relationship. When he decided to propose, he told us about his circumstances, saying that his father had been an employee in a very reputable company, suffered a lot, and had retired, and had been wheelchair-bound for 15 years, with his mother responsible for him and the house, and she was supposed to come see the house and family and meet them. Aisha used to tell me that she was not comfortable. I did not know why, but Jamila was happy, so we told her it's fine. And when the day of the visit came, they apologized, and it was a shock to us all. But Mohammed came and explained that his father was very sick and they weren't able to come, and he asked for another appointment, and my father, because he was a kind man, agreed, and the meeting was indeed successful. I called them that day. I found Jamila crying a lot, and when I asked what's wrong, she told me her heart was not at peace. Mohammed called one day and said that his father prayed and saw that it's not suitable. And my father went to ask in Dar al-Ifta. They confirmed this to him. Then my father called me and he told me that Jamila is very attached to me. My father doesn't know how to act. I convinced my father to agree, as long as there is nothing wrong with me. He actually agreed paternally. Mohammed engaged Jamila in anger from his family, but he was not happy, of course, because his family was upset. At that time, Aisha proposed to Jamila and told her to call his mother. She asks her to visit her. She told her that she would go with her. She also told her to try to appease her. And you make her understand that you will be like her other daughter, especially since Muhammad only has one sister, girl. One, and her name is Omnia. And they actually went. The woman welcomed them, and they received the necessary hospitality of juice and water. Didn't she think they were? They passed them. for her approval of the engagement, even without their consent. But Aisha answered her and told her, "If we have not passed, we haven't gone beyond that at all. We are waiting for you." We waited for their approval for 2 years. But in the end, the visit ended in rejection. The thing is, she doesn't think she's comfortable. The last words she said to Jamila, "May God bless you with the best." Of course, all this while I am a rebel, because Jamila is my daughter and my love. Who are they to hurt my daughter's heart? But after a while, Jamila called me and she is very happy. Her mother-in-law came to visit her. She told her she thought she discovered that her son was in pain. She cannot bear the torture of her son. I brought her a chain. It contains a small Quran. Jamila, I was very happy. Actually, how relieved am I? Actually, you don't know. They don't know Jamila. Relatively. What does it mean to me? After a period, I lost touch with them. I called home. My mother would give short responses, like someone who wants to end the conversation. A period of 2 months and all of them changed. I send a message to Aisha, who does not respond to my answers. Neither her nor Amma nor Jamila. And within 3 months, I don't know anything about my family. I kept calling home and no one answered. And here I was, completely cut off from news of them. I decided to take a vacation and return to Egypt. This is what I did. I booked my first plane. And I came back. I went back to our house. I found it locked. I tried to understand from the neighbors. The one who looked at me with fear, and the one who told me that there's no might or power except with Allah. The one who got lost in his words. Went to Aisha's house and thanks Allah I found her. But she is not happy at all. Is she sad or depressed and frustrated, wearing black and psychologically devastated? As soon as she saw me, she threw herself into my arms and cried a lot. My heart is going to stop from fear. Afraid to ask. I don't know what to tell her. But after she calmed down, she spoke. The first thing she said, "Jamila died. It was the biggest shock I've ever received in my life. My daughter died. Yes, Jamila is not just my sister. She's my daughter. She told me she committed suicide."
I don't understand anything. Where are Dad and Mom?
Where is Ammar? Ammar is in prison and Dad died. You and Mom are inside the room and I can't imagine all this happening in 5 months. Where is Mom? I want to see her. I entered and found a body resembling a mummy. Yes, a fleshly skeleton. Even when I got closer, she didn't recognize me, living in a different realm. As I was absorbing the shock, I started to calm down and asked Aisha to tell me what happened. She said it's all because of the necklace. I told her I don't understand. Explain. She said, Muhammad went to Jamila and brought her a gold chain with a Quran in it. And from here all the tragedies began. This woman has no conscience to judge her. I told her to explain it to him in detail.
She told me that this is the Quran necklace. There was magic in it. Magic done. Imagine the power. You placed a work on the Quran. It worked on the inside of the Quran. Since then, Jamila, her condition has changed. She became another human being. She hated Muhammad and decided to stay away. She started waking up at night and screaming. And she screams. She says she sees someone trying to touch her. And he tries to get closer to her. And he says to her, she's his wife. And he won't allow anyone to get close to her. We lived in dark days, Bakr. We are proud of all the sheikhs, me and my mother, whoever makes a mistake for us and who tells us that she was dressed in the bathroom. And the one who enters a grave and locks it up will see lonely days, O Bakr. The poor thing flinched. When we went, the sheikh told us that Jamila had magic, and put it in the knot in its control. and the jinn. It is impossible for anyone to take it from him. Even if we tried. If we tried, its end will be death. Dad, of course. He didn't know everything. This is when he knew. Sheikh went to Al-Azhar and bring him to us, and he came to us. Once the man started reading the Quran, Jamila went crazy and became as strong as 10 men. We tried to control her, but we did not know how. She left us, ran onto the balcony, and threw herself. We haven't spent a while and can't believe it's gone from us. Mama got pregnant. Dad, this is the sin. He was the one who killed her when he brought the sheikh. Sheikh, after that, sometime later, we heard that Muhammad Khalas was...
Ammar is very upset. Anger. He went to him. There was a problem between the two. And of course, because his mother is an influential woman, I framed Ammar. A case and imprisonment. Then my father died of anger. This is all that happened, my mother-in-law. This is the story, my mother-in-law. And of course you know the rest. She knew that after Ammar was imprisoned, people attacked him in prison and killed him. A quarrel between prisoners and they killed each other. Come on, I'll tell you what you don't know. You were the reason I started. Read books about magic and greening after what you did to Jamila. And after Ammar died, I traveled, and I left the country. I returned to Iraq again. I worked and struggled and decided to do something else. But all this, I was thinking about how to drink you from the same cup my family drank from. The only thing I took from here, Jamila necklace. So I don't forget, so that I don't forget my life. What you did to me and to them. Did you know what magic really means? Did you know what it means to prepare and harness jinn? And I came back. I came back with the money. I changed my name from Bakr to Ammar and any name after it. Not important. The important thing is that I became a different person. Watch your children's movement. I asked a lot about them. And I knew everything about them. And I met Ayman because I know Muhammad from him. And indeed, and from Muhammad. I knew his wife, and honestly, it was very easy. I was the one who told Muhammad that his wife was cheating on him, and when I love to take someone's opinion, tell me about it. I was the one who installed the cameras. On the fateful day, I brought you to sit with your daughter, and I went home to her, and I was baptized. Let the doorman feel me. And he sees me. Yeah, he sees me outside. And I turned around, and I'm hiding something, so no one knows who I am. I entered without anyone seeing me at all, but I went out, and I made him see me. I made him see me from my back. In fact, I actually went out to her. But I went out to her and told her to come and buy me a gift. It means a gift from my wife, according to her taste, because she started to doubt. She spoke the truth and came down. I was the one who installed the camera. It was easy and strong. I know how to leave nothing or my appearance visible. And I returned to my desk. I waited until I confirmed that it was your son. He saw her very well. Because I have been spying on every step he takes since this idiot came to me and asked me to help him. After that, with a simple idea, the video has been edited to show that the apartment was empty at the time. This is because control. It was all from me. It was evidence of innocence. Same. The evidence of the conviction and the doorman was easy and strong to change his testimony by 1,000. And the easiest part, it is also the death of your son in prison, with a few pounds. Drugs go to prison with any criminal, and your son is given drugs and he dies. As for what you and your daughter were seeing, this is the magic that I learned, which is located in the heart of your apartment and in the chain that your daughter wore. The same beautiful work you did. I work for her. She felt everything my sister felt because of you. She sees everything she saw. But unfortunately, I wish she would commit suicide too, with no fear in her soul. But unfortunately, May God have mercy on her. If only she had lived a little longer. I've done it 1,000 times more than that. As for you, my mother-in-law, I will take you out and stay with me. The house is higher than you. I will take you up. Is there anything more wonderful than that? No, 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 no. No, stay with me and stay aware. I will prefer to live like this. I will still live to bring you up. And I am the one responsible. About you, and you cannot take your rights from me. Hey. My mother-in-law. You are not ashamed of me. We are now waiting for a year to come. You torture me with your agents, your whispers, and your endless screams. And I torture you. I live forever with you. And you can't do anything for me.
Nor do you take the rights of your children.
Honestly, the taste of revenge is very enjoyable. But we have reached the end. I am tired. I want to take a rest. I am relieved by your depressing voice. This is because... So I decided to finish the game. I will finish the game with you. That's enough for me and you. I would like to know why you haven't died yet. We both of us must die. We must die. We must die.
Thus today's story has ended, a story of a soul's revenge written by Ahmed Hamdi. I hope you liked the story and do not forget to subscribe, like and comment on the story. Thank you very much. Ahmed Zain, presenter of the Horror Radio channel, was with you. Goodbye.